Hey, you. Yeah, you in the blue. Pay attention. It's snippet time. Hello, and welcome to Sober Living Snippets, where we live alcohol free so we can heal our relationships, feel youthful again, and ditch regret and shame. And regret and shame are the topic of today's snippet. Hey, gals, Becca Jacobson here, and I have a snippet for you. I'm going to talk to you about the long-term effects of regret and shame on our health, physical and emotional health. But first of all, why do I even mention regret and shame? Well, if you've been struggling with alcohol for any length of time, these are natural occurring emotions. You know that moment when you're laying in bed, you open your eyes, you become conscious, and you realize you did it again. Whether it was one glass of wine when you said you weren't going to drink, or you overdrank, or you did something to embarrass yourself, or even if you just had a glass by yourself, when you said you wouldn't. All of those behaviors lead to emotions like regret and shame. If regret and shame is not hitting home for you, it could also be frustration. It could be despair. It could be, for me, there was a lot of frustration. How many times do I have to go through this? I said I wasn't going to drink. Here I am again, opening my eyes in the morning, and I did it again. So regret, shame, frustration, anger, embarrassment, despair, all of these emotions, I'm sure you've felt. And I've said before on the show, that is no way to live. That is living hell on earth. In all other areas of our lives, we've got our shit together. We are grandmothers. We are wives. We are partners. We are parents. We are professionals. We have careers. We got it going on. And we can't stop drinking. That is, as we said last week in one of our episodes, living in cognitive dissonance. Today, I'm going to focus in on regret and shame because I mention it every episode in the introduction, as I'm sure you noticed. And I just want to gently remind you, my dears, in case you didn't know this, regret and shame have long-term effects on our physical health, our emotional health, not to mention our relationships. So I'm going to share some information on that for you today, and some of it might be surprising to you. I was surprised. But first I want to ask you a question. Just a simple question. Do you remember where you were 1 year ago? What were you doing 1 year ago? That should be easy, right? You remember where you were 1 year ago. What have you accomplished in the last 12 months? Have you moved forward in your life in ways that you would have liked? The fact of the matter is that we should be able to look over the last year of our lives and say, well, I moved ahead here, I did this, I accomplished that. This is living with intention, which we also talked about last week. If you're a little disappointed when you look back over the last 12 months, then I have another question for you. If you and I were to sit down 12 months from now and have a coffee, what would you like to be able to say to me about your life? Where would you like to be 12 months from now? Or even 6 months from now? For that matter, what about 30 days from now? This is how we face the fact that we may not be growing as much as we want to, and we realize that the only way to start growing is by deciding now, today, in this moment, that you know what? 30 days from now, I'm going to be here or there, or I'm going to have done this or done that. Now, hold on a second. You're probably thinking, Becca, I've done that. You have no idea how many New Year's resolutions I've had. I was going to do this and I was going to do that. It's usually around dieting. It's usually around exercising, and for us, it's around alcohol. And it always leaves us with a bad taste in our mouth. I tried, I failed, I'm sick of it, I give up. Do you want to know why you failed? You failed, my dear, because you were trying to do it alone. Humans are not constructed that way. We're not able to motivate ourselves over the long term to accomplish our goals. That is just a fact. I'm not making that up. There's nothing wrong with you. That is the way it is. And if it wasn't that way, I wouldn't have drank until I was 52 years old, because the only thing that held me back was my absolute determination to do it alone. And I couldn't. It wasn't until I finally said, I can't do this alone. And bang, the floodgates opened and I broke free. So that's all that's holding you back. Now let's get back to regret and shame. I want you to understand what you're doing to yourself when you suffer with these emotions over the long term. But don't worry, my dear, I also have the solution for you. Okay, this really surprised me, and so I want to share it with you. Long-term regret. Over time, we regret our actions, right? You and I, boy, we know how that feels. Did you know that regret causes chronic stress? Being in a state of regret, it's simply saying to yourself, oh my God, why did I do that? Why? And before we go on, actually, let's talk about the difference between regret and shame. For us, the shame is really bizarre because here we are, we're the grandmother, we're the mother, we are a particular type of person playing a particular role who does things that are really embarrassing. I can't tell you how many women I've spoken to who said, my kids are worried about me. I've embarrassed myself in front of my children. I've met women who are not even allowed to see their grandchildren because their children are concerned about their drinking. That makes us feel shame on the deepest, deepest level. Regret causes chronic stress. When you wake up in the morning regretting the fact that you drank the night before, you're stressed. You know that. I don't have to tell you that. Chronic stress leads to dysregulation of hormonal and immune system, which means we get sick and could be not just over the long term, we're not just catching more colds or catching what's going around, but this can lead to way more serious illnesses than just that. It also leads to depression and things like rumination and repetitive thinking. We find ourselves dwelling on it over and over again throughout the day. At its worst, this can lead to apathy. And I mentioned a little bit of apathy at the beginning, where we get to the stage where we don't even try anymore. We're like, what's the point of trying? I know I'm going to fail again. That's a very low state to be in, because we don't stand a chance of getting anywhere if we're afraid to try. And what about shame? Shame is that thought of I am bad. And that's what we feel because we're supposed to be a particular person. And instead we're behaving a way that is completely contrary to that role. And we feel like we're bad people. Shame leads to anxiety, low self-worth, depression. We start to isolate ourselves. And just like regret, shame triggers stress hormones. So now you've got a double whammy going on. And physiological stress, like increased blood pressure, which can lead to hypertension, heart disease, increased risk of stroke. Again, shame and regret both suppress the immune system. This can lead to metabolic disorders, cancer, autoimmune disorders. Those are pretty serious, but even on a less serious but very difficult level, it can lead to digestive disorders. Are you having symptoms of IBS? IBS itself can be caused by shame and regret over the long term. So if you're not digesting your food the way you think you should and struggling with digestive disorders and pounding back the probiotics, it's not the probiotics you need. What we need is to get relief from this ongoing feeling of regret, shame, and cognitive dissonance that we've been living with all these years. If you're having trouble sleeping, regret and shame are probably involved. All of this, of course, is caused by alcohol. And finally, long-term shame and regret can also cause cognitive impairment like memory, concentration, and our inability to regulate our emotions. So if you wonder why you're feeling weepy or frustrated or angry or all of this because of long-term shame and regret, which is caused by the fact that we can't get a handle on our drinking. And let's just go back for a moment about cognitive impairments like memory and concentration. We all know that aging itself can cause cognitive impairment. We want to be present in our golden years. We want to age gracefully. And we've noticed, especially those of us who have gone through menopause, that the memory can be affected. The last thing we need to do is make that worse by drinking and then regretting our drinking and then feeling shame. So it's not just the alcohol, it's the emotions that the alcohol causes. We want to age gracefully. Remember, this last era of our lives is supposed to be the best, not one where we have memory loss and we can't concentrate. And the next thing you know, we're having a hard time functioning and we need somebody to help us. No. So where would you like to be 1 year from now? You and I both know how quickly a year goes by. With the right help, 1 year from now, you could be a completely different person. Let's be honest. How many times have you told yourself, I'll cut back, only to find yourself pouring another glass? How many times have you woken up with regret, promising yourself it was the last time? The truth is, nothing changes until you decide that it's time. If this episode's hitting home and you're tired of feeling stuck in this cycle, let's talk. Right now, March, brand new month, I have a special offer for you. I'm offering free one-on-one calls where you can share your story, and together we'll create a personalized plan to break free. But on top of that, because I know that taking this step is big and it's difficult to reach out, I'm offering a $200 restaurant certificate to every woman who meets with me. You'll soon be enjoying a night out, completely in control, fully present, and without regret. But gals, I have a limited number of one-on-one calls I can take each month. So open up whatever app you're streaming this podcast on, go to the show notes of this specific episode, and click the link that says Book a Call with Becca. It'll take you to my personal calendar where you can pick a time that works before they're all gone. Listen, this could be the decision that changes everything. Your drinking is doing more damage than you realize, and I'm here to help you take the action that you need to take to escape this horrifying cycle. And you can escape it. Thanks for joining me, gals, and I'll see you tomorrow with another snippet. Thanks for popping in. Be sure to come back tomorrow so we can keep your head on straight. Sending you buckets of love.